It's okay. Go on. You're on.
Great. Well, hi, welcome everybody. This is our last virtual meeting of the CCCR NIC. We're really excited to have everybody share their MOEL shareouts. So moments of extraordinary learning. We know it's MOEL spelled wrong, but we're going with it anyway. So if we could actually have the slide deck come up. And I think if you guys click on Ryan's picture, you should be able to make it big for you so that you can see it. And we'll go ahead and skip forward to the format. So the format that we're going to be using today is each team is going to have 5 minutes to share their MOELs, their moments of extraordinary learning. And then we're going to have 3 minutes of response. I'm echoing.
Hey, Matt.
I think we're muting some folks. Okay, and then 3 minutes of response where we can kind of share out some celebrations, connections, questions. It would be awesome if we got like at least 3 kind of comments from each share. So please feel free to kind of chat those in and get those going. So the order that we're going to be using is listed here. We're going to start with Connect Ed, and then Envision, and then Big Picture, Asia Society, High Tech High, and New Tech is going to bring us home. So you'll see that there's a link to a Google Doc to capture feedback. We'd encourage you to kind of open that document and have it alongside while you're kind of hearing and listening to the presentations. And if there's any kind of feedback or things that strike you as the person is talking, please feel free to capture those there. That would be fantastic. So without further ado, why don't we just kind of roll on through? And what I'm going to ask, because we are, as always, tight on time, especially when we're having all of the teams share, whoever is presenting, if you could please set your timer for 5 minutes so that you know when it goes off. I'm also going to set mine. So when you hear mine kind of go off, you'll know as well. But we need to try our best to keep it to 5 minutes. All right. So, Connect Ed, are you ready to kick us off?
Yes, we are.
Okay, awesome. Set your timers, and away we go.
Okay, I'm just going to click on the slides because I don't have it open elsewhere. So today I'm going to be just introducing the work that the OUSD Alt Ed has been doing with the NIC, and Emma has joined me to kind of fill in the gaps and talk a little bit more about the teacher experience. Next slide. Thank you. So some of the high points for this team has been just having access to this opportunity. They were really interested in the improvement science work, but it's usually pretty expensive to join, so they're very happy about this. And having time to plan and put together their sort of scope and sequence for the year. This team worked on developing a year-long plan using monthly meetings with all the alt ed teachers in discipline-alike groups to kind of work on overall on a plan to improve writing across the classes through designing tasks and analyzing student work. And one of the big things that they have been has come up over throughout the year, and they feel that they have had some really big gains in, is intentionally shifting the way that, in particular, teachers talk about students around their assets. Next slide. So just really quickly, the aim was to increase the use of specific writing strategies, and one of the sort of the things from the driver diagram was using asset-based analysis of student work, and with an emphasis on really drilling down to specific things that are present in both the writing and in classrooms. All right, next slide. So here I'm going to turn it over to Emma, who's going to share a little bit more about what actually happened and what it felt like.
Can you hear me? Am I on? Awesome. Hi, everybody. So kind of, I mean, you know, we're our theory of acceleration, because we are needing to catch some students up on skills, is that students who perform at the level of the cognitive challenges we provide. And this kind of came out of watching teachers teach really low-level skills and books and content because, you know, our students struggle, right? And so we sort of predicted that when we were looking at student work and talking about specific writing skills, that teachers would blame the kids and kind of like, oh, but our kids are different and they can't do this and they have bad behavior and stuff. But by focusing on this asset-based norm, we actually saw that teachers used a lot of asset-based language and really were identifying, oh, this is what students are doing in their writing. Now how can we build on that? Next slide. So just one teacher that I worked with that we had like a huge aha moment, he was working on claim evidence like a lot throughout the year, which is a pretty specific skill, and he was sort of feeling like I'm not getting a lot of writing from kids and they're still struggling with it, and like how do I actually even teach writing? And so through this work we did, and then also with my coaching, we were able to kind of like get an essential question. For him it was, how does being undocumented in the U.S. impact a person's life? And then once he sort of had that, he felt like, you know, students really know where to go, I know where to go, and then he was able to sort of teach the whole idea of claim evidence. And by the time he got to the summative assessment, they had practiced it so many times, and we had practiced like having a really clear task prompt, which was something we had worked on in our Pdsa, that he ended up getting way more summative assessments than he ever had. He felt like they actually learned a new skill, that he had like taught it in 6 weeks, which is what we were hoping for. And because he was cycling on this small skill, you know, we have a lot of absence issues, but because he was so focused that there was an entry point for all students, whether they came every day or once a week. So that was really great, and we kind of, if you go to the next slide, one of the things we learned was that that we are only cycling once a month with the teachers, and we actually need to fill in those gaps. And so because I was coaching this teacher, I was able to fill in those gaps, which got him a lot further. So the surprising outcomes were, we have a teaching and learning. Sorry, I know, I realized that slide was out of order. We have a teaching and learning specialist in our district, and they're sort of lost, like how do they support sites, and we really brought them into our collaborative, and they just have loved it and felt like it gave them a structure. Oh, okay. That's about it, and George says hi, and the district has been really impressed with our work, and now they're trying to change everything to do it more like us. Woo!
All right, awesome.
I think I covered it all, generally.
Well done. That was a model at 5 minutes exactly. So nice work. All right, so can we get a few popcorns out? It'd be great to have at least 3 kind of celebrations or questions. And if you've got one, go ahead and either type it into the chat, or you can just speak. Or I might nominate people.
I think Alt-Ed is pretty magnificent.
Who's speaking? Sorry, we've got such a big group. It'd be awesome if you could just say who you are and then.
That's George Alonzo being self-congratulatory, trying to get things moving. Come on, guys. Hello.
I love the haircut, George. Looks great.
I'm the Filipino Shaolin. Thank you.
This is Scott. When it said you needed to teach the students like the discrete writing skills from Sean's teaching experience, what were the writing skills that really kind of like came out? What were the things that were focused on that really felt to make the biggest difference?
So great question. We were in discipline-alike groups, and we let so there was 6 groups, and we let each one choose their like writing focus, which actually took us a little bit more cycling than we thought to like help them really narrow in. And actually, most of the groups chose claim evidence. So history was a little bit more around like identifying bias. English was very much claim evidence. Math was looking at like multiple representations of what would you call that, a claim? I don't. Yeah, like
was around technical writing. So looking at say you have an equation, you have a graph, you have a descriptor. Yeah, just multiple representations of technical writing.
yeah, and so that was actually a big success too, is that because we put them in discipline-alike groups and let them sort of walk through, like they looked at writing and they decided to focus, that there was a lot of buy-in that way. But that is one thing, you know, kind of seeing that same evidence is a big one. That's something I think we want to build on too.
Great. And how about Javier? I loved your comment in the chat. Do you mind just sharing it, and then we'll have Daisy, and we'll move on to the next one.
Yeah, my comment is about just I really appreciate and respect that you shifted the conversation, you know, to an asset base, that these students who are largely seen as kids who are deficient and lacking to one that really positions them to share strengths, right, and for you to really recognize those.
Yeah, thank you. And actually, I just want to say that it was really easy. Like, literally all we did was, like, start the conversation of looking at student work. We just started it with, like, here's the norm we want to focus on, here's what that looks like, and it was just everyone took off from there, and that was our norm going from then on, and it totally worked. So, yeah, thank you.
Great. Daisy, I don't know, I nominated you, but if you have something, there's a lot of stuff happening in the chat window too, which is awesome.
You can bump right to the chat window. Sorry, I was navigating Matt there.
Okay. Oh, sorry about that. Okay, great. Awesome. Well done. Yay, ConnectEd. We're excited to learn more. And let's move on to our next group, which is going to be Envision.
Everybody's muted, so I'm just going to cheer. Yay! Every time. Says the slides. Too quiet here, guys.
We can all do clapping.
I'm channeling my inner George. All right, Envisions.
All right. Well, I'll be presenting alone this time, since it's our day off and folks are sort of all over the place at support office and things like that. I did get their feedback, and it's represented in our MOELs. So I guess I'll get started. This is just our team and our fabulous work at the NIC. If you want to go to the next slide, I think. The reason why we actually looked at our team was because, I've mentioned this before, but we had already actually created a college team before we even had an opportunity to join NIC. And so it just aligned really well with what we were looking at, because we already had high college acceptance rates, but really with focusing on how to better prepare students to be college ready. So our initial aim was that by the end of this school year, we were going to decrease the percentage of students who needed remedial math and English from 85 to 60%. And that also included our original goal of using this year as sort of a cycle of inquiry to collect data and to make recommendations to the school site on how to better prepare students and make sure that they're college ready. So some of the things that we did, some of the PDSAs that we tried were SSR in the 9th and 10th grade, and I'll share a little bit more in a bit. College readiness awareness workshops in each grade level, college team PD with all the staff to discuss exams and understand the problem. So the image on the right sort of shows one of our staff meetings, and we used like a interactive activity called Plickers for them to kind of be able to like answer questions and kind of see what the progress was. So we presented a couple of times during the year and also just kind of shared our findings, since most of the PDSA cycles happen within the team, not necessarily at our site. The next slide shows a couple other PDSAs, partnership with City College of San Francisco to offer placement testing, integrating practice problems, again, sort of to go towards the aim or address the aim of reducing remediation or the need for remediation. And what I included on the right is just one of our students who's a graduating senior, and he was just, after the experience of being able to go to City College and going through the whole process, he was sharing that he just felt a lot more excited. I think one of the challenges is that students feel like they've maybe failed if they're not going to a four-year college, and having had the opportunity to be at City College and kind of learn about the different programs, he was really excited about starting at City College in the fall, and so he shared that experience with us as well. The next slide sort of shows some of the high points from the NIC work based on some of the members of the team. So they appreciated having a unique combination of people that made it work, so not just school site staff, but also a support office staff, who's Jamie. The San Diego convenings were really important for us. It feels, because we're all site-based, I think there was an assumption that we would all kind of see each other more often, but it actually makes it a little harder because you're so immersed in the same work that it's hard to kind of detach yourself. And so being in San Diego was really helpful for us. It also, one of the teachers mentioned how she felt like there were certain things that she was bringing to the table and she wasn't really sure that anyone else would care about them, and so she appreciated that people did. Also, the appreciating the support and also encouraging us to think about big data and little data and how we can use formative assessments in our work. The next slide is showing SSR and sort of some of the things that we learned. It's a very, very long list. You all can sort of read through that. I asked Brittany to put something together, and this was sort of her baby, and she was really excited about it. But essentially, we learned that kids don't hate reading. They love reading, given the structures, given it to be independent reading, something that they're not necessarily required to do. So you can take a look at some of the other sort of things that we learned on there. The next thing we learned from our other Pdsa cycles were just things about, like, structurally about our school, looking at our master schedule as being a valuable tool to develop opportunities for high achieving students to sort of challenge themselves and better prepare for college level work. We're also really excited because we did a series of presentations in the different grade levels, and preliminary data is already showing that there's been an increase in the number of students that are testing into conditionally ready and college ready just based on SBAC scores. And that was like us just doing awareness. It wasn't even like implementing any more sample problems. It was really just awareness. And so that's really exciting for us to think about what else we can do moving forward if we sort of build on that. And then also the need for improving or focusing on non-cognitive skills, and that came out through a lot of the surveys that we did with the students. And the last thing that we learned was the power of language. And so on the next slide, so I kind of started with what our initial aim was, and after being at our last convening, and I think it was maybe one of the improvement reviews,
Did we lose Gabby?
We lost Gabby.
Oh.
That was good. I think that was an important moment.
I actually know what she was going to say, though, I think, so I can finish up. Okay, so I think as a result of one of the improvement reviews, they realized it would be helpful to flip their aim so that it's positively framed. Instead of decreasing the number who end up in remedial math and English, focus on what % are we actually getting college ready and having that increase. Just the power of language, framing it as a positive versus a negative, I think can be more inspiring. I think that's what she was going to say. Hopefully she will come back and actually hear our celebrations and be able to hear our questions too. But why don't we just try to capture, I've noticed there's a couple celebrations. Nick, how about Nick and Emma? Can I call you guys out just to kind of share what you wrote? And if she comes back, we'll have time for Steve's question. But how about Nick and Emma?
Yeah, I just appreciated how you created a culture around the change you wanted to see. Not just around reading and literacy, and I know you talked about it with kids in addition to like measuring it really closely, and it can be really easy to get caught up in what you want to measure and be super driven towards that. But I just was really impressed with the culture piece too.
Mm-hmm.
I was just excited that the change idea actually improved SBAC scores. Those can always feel like really hard to address, and so it's neat to like silent reading actually just being more intentional about it improved our scores. So that's awesome.
All right, well, hopefully Gabby will come back. For now, just in case she doesn't, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next group. Oh, wait, it's Gabby. Are you there, Gabby?
Twice.
Now there's two Gabbys. She's rapidly multiplying. Oh, Now we lost one of her. Well, All right, and Ben really appreciates the specific set of change ideas. Awesome for improving SSR. I also wanted to highlight just for the team that we've been experimenting with templates for capturing kind of those ideas that we are getting some evidence that we believe they're leading to improvement. And so I'll share that template with Gabby, but I'd love to share it with everybody, and it might be a helpful way of kind of capturing some of the learning. So Gabby, if you're back, but can we hear you? Can you say something real quick?
No, we'll try to work those on. Maybe we can move on.
We're going to try to come back. All right, so on to the next group. And the next one is big picture. So Javier and your team, you guys are up.
Javier, are these your slides? Sorry, just checking.
Keep going.
There we go.
There you go. All right, take it away. I think you might be muted. There you go.
Jessica, are you presenting this?
Yeah, I'm fine with presenting it. I was going to.
Okay.
Nicole can't.
Great, thanks, Jessica.
Is Nicole with us?
Oh, there, you don't want to do it?
Is Nicole with you or no?
No, she's stuck in traffic.
Okay.
All right, take it away, Jessica. 5 minutes.
Okay, let me reset my timer. Okay, so yeah, I'm Jessica. I'm with Javier and Nicole. We are part of the Big Picture team. Our school, Nicole and I's school, is Soledad Enrichment Action. It's in downtown LA. We're a really small school. We have about 50 students. There are 4 teachers. We're a combination of a Big Picture school that closed as well as a continuation school. So there's our team members. Do you want to maybe move forward to our aim, I think is our next slide. So our aim, which is not super specific yet, but is to increase knowledge and skills to navigate systems. We're basing this language off the non-cognitive variables because what we've noticed is Nicole and I have worked with the same students for 10 years, and we have incredible success getting kids to apply and be accepted to four-year colleges. But then after they leave us, they tend to fall through the cracks. And that kind of turns out to be our problem. Like, kids don't finish school, or they get stuck with not knowing how to fill out financial aid forms or submit registration forms. So we decided to focus our aim around developing skills to help kids find better or more appropriate post-secondary plans, and skills to be to navigate whatever those plans were. So our Pdsa, what we tried out, the 3 major ones we probably did, is we decided to start by doing an initial school-wide survey about college and career readiness, and that drastically changed what our aim was in the fall. So based on that, we instituted financial literacy workshops for the 11th and 12th grade, and then we also had kids submit a post-secondary plan, which they had to then update every quarter. But we did that without originally any prompting. We just said, what's your plan after high school and why? So we did that, and we got that from every kid in the school. And then our most recent Pdsas were focused around a second draft of the post-secondary plan. So prior to that, we did some college and career planning workshops for all 10th and 11th grade students because our seniors were already graduating. We did salary and budgeting workshops around a project called Road Trip Nation, which if you're not familiar with that, it's an online program where students follow their passions and they then go out in the real world and interview someone and attempt to meet people in fields they're passionate about. And we had kids do budgeting about like what their dream job is versus a minimum wage job. And then we had every student in the school revise their post-secondary plan on their learning plan and present it, and then say whether or not after they've been through all these different workshops this year and projects, did they change their post-secondary plan and why. So I think the next slide is data. Yeah, so this slide shows the percentage of students who decided to change their post-secondary. I can go back one, actually. Yeah. This is the percentage of students who changed their post-secondary plan So you can see more than half, slightly more than half students at our school did change their post-secondary plan after all the PDSAs we had. And of those ones that said yes, almost all of them said it was because they became more aware of options and things that are more realistic, or that they actually had options they didn't know about. The ones that said no were mostly kids who've always wanted to go to a 4-year. And then there was just a few who weren't sure. And then the next slide, I think, is very telling. The blue shows what the beginning of the year when we just did that, what do you want to do after high school survey of the whole school? And then the red is after, and you can see things really move towards the positive. All the kids in the school had no plan. Everyone had a plan after that. And kids who didn't think they were going to go to college now want to go to college. Now kids who wanted to, who didn't know about transfer community college programs now know about it. So we saw a massive, massive change. We were actually very excited to see what kids had really learned. So the next slide, what's the next slide? Yeah, this is a spotlight. So we had one student who had said he had no plan to do anything after high school except become perhaps a mechanic, but he had no idea how to do that. And once he'd gone through our workshops and the Road Trip Nation program, and he realized that there was actually trade programs and trade schools, and you'd make a lot more money and be more successful, he got really excited, and this now was like, now I actually care about graduating high school. And then we had some other students who felt really disheartened because they thought, oh, I'd never get accepted to a 4-year college. But now I realize there's transfer programs and there's like a light at the end of the tunnel for me. So those are kind of our spotlight situations. Next slide, I think, is what we learned. So this is pretty much our what we got out of it. We realized that students really weren't aware of all their options, that inadvertently we had spent all this time in the past few years kind of convincing them they had to go to a 4-year college right away, and that was kind of it. And that the new students, especially the community or the continuation school students, really had almost no plans or very unrealistic. So now we know we need to focus way more on career options and technical programs, and that we had started this Road Trip Nation budget project where we had students look at careers in the real world, and we weren't sure how successful it was, but almost every student who changed their plan noted that as being a major reason why. So like, that's very successful, and we're going to not only keep it, but we're going to improve it for the next year.
Awesome. Well done.
Awesome. Well done.
All right. Do we have anybody that wants to kick off a celebration? We've got a lot in the chat window, and I'm not going to call Emma out at all. But Scott's got some great questions, and Steve has a great question. So unless somebody has a celebration to kick right off with, then I think we can move into those questions.
Well, I'll celebrate that it was that there were you know, it's very impressive that you were able to do things that had an impact, and that the students tied the impact back to what you did. That's not easily done. So congratulations for that. My question was whether you had considered or even included mentors as supports for the students as they're planning and as they're going into college.
Yes, we definitely are. That's a big part of our program, actually, students having mentors. That's a big part of the big picture program. So most of our students do obtain internships over time with a mentor.
Great. Scott, do you want to pose your question, and then Ben?
Yeah, you were mentioning that you were thinking about improving the Road Trip Nation program and making it better for next year, kind of expanding it. How did you plan on doing that?
We don't really know yet. I know for the budget part, we do this math and science investigation part. Right now, I thought was fairly simplistic, and I would like to make it more advanced in terms of data collection and analysis. We want to get more kids out on their projects. Their Road Trip projects.
You do a little bit?
We don't know how yet. We just decided this, so.
Cool. And Ben, do you want to pose your question?
Yeah, sure. I was just curious because you started out by talking about how you felt like you were successful in supporting students and getting into college or other post-secondary opportunities, but not enough of them were graduating or realizing success. And I was just curious about was it the clearinghouse data that kind of informed you of that, and sort of how do you plan to continue tracking that on an ongoing basis?
Well, actually, I personally have been tracking that data over the past probably 5 or 6 years. I have a huge Google spreadsheet, and I keep in contact with the alumni, so I've been tracking it because we found in the past clearinghouse data isn't really that accurate. And so I don't actually know how we're going to do that moving forward yet because we need a better system, but we've been very successful being able to do that, but that's just because our school is so small. So we usually only have between 15 and 20 graduates, so it's been easy to do.
Cool. Great. That's something that we'd like to think through together too, because yes, clearinghouse data, we've got a lot of questions about it as well. All right, and Emma's interested in how you're tracking post-secondary, because we're trying to do that too, so maybe that could be a good conversation that happens offline, or if we have a little more time at the end. Lots of compliments in the chat box, but we're going to go ahead and move on to the next group, which is Asia Society. And I know, Scott, we heard quite a bit last month from you guys, so feel free to kind of skim over some of the stuff we've already heard about and focus on what feels new and that you're excited to share. So Scott and Liliana.
Hi. Hey, hello. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start us off and ignore the dogs barking in the background as my wife is coming home right this second. So the first thing is we had 3 things that we really wanted to focus on this year, which were the career cruising survey to really kind of help kids figure out what they wanted to do, improve our internships, and then third, really get college field trips up and going. And Liliana's been a huge part of those initiations and is working with the kids and has set up the whole field trip program. So I'm going to turn it over to her, and she's going to kind of talk to us about like where the strengths were, maybe where the improvements need to be. And so I'm just going to turn it over to Liliana now.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Not sure if you can all hear me.
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, wonderful. So we were very ambitious, and we actually did, we planned field trips for all 7 grades, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, I'm sorry, 6th grades through 11th. We decided not to do seniors this year as we started the program in the spring semester and didn't think it would have an impact on our seniors. It was very successful. The kids really enjoyed it. Some of them, it was the first time they were at a college campus. Some kids said they'd never been on a field trip before. This was their first field trip. So it was really enlightening to see the way they embraced it and the possibilities. Just today, one of the students walked in and she visited Cccr University in Orange County, which is a school that's very similar to our school. And this is one of the students who struggled through 9th and 10th grade, and now that she's a junior, she's doing much better. And she says that going to Cccr University really inspired her. She doesn't think she can get in with her grades that she has currently, but she says that it's making her work a little bit harder because she wants to see herself there at some point. So that was really, really nice to hear. Teachers are also enjoying it. There has been some bumps, just getting teachers to understand the value of it, all teachers to understand the value of why we're going on these field trips. A lot of teachers are very protective of their instruction time, and so there's been a little bit of being a salesperson. But for the most part, it's been great, and we are currently working on next year's program, so trying to get better dates spread out throughout the year, and trying to see how to make it less disruptive, because this year we had to split up grades into 2 different groups because most universities can't handle groups that are 120 or so. So that's where we're at, and I'm still sorting through the data, so we're not completely done with all the data. We did it on hard copies this year. Next year we're doing it Google Forms, so it'll be easier for us to go through.
And then I'd like to add in too the fact that with each of the different colleges we chose, we tried to choose colleges that had like a different feel to them. So one might be UC, one might be like Cccr University was like an international school. So we were trying to like take different colleges that would have a different feel to it for every single year. As kids built, they get more exposure to all the different kinds of experiences that were out there.
And we did just, I don't know if that's on the PowerPoint, but we did a pre-survey, post-survey, and they also had a scavenger hunt while they were on the trip. So there was a lot of prepping before they went, and also some reflections on their way back.
And in terms of the other two areas, with the career cruising, we're going to make some adjustments to that next year. We're going to have a whole plan around that on whether or not to use like 36 question one versus 120 question one. And then we did not get nearly as far with internships this year as we wanted to. So that'll be a huge focus for us next year. And we're going to take all of the information that you guys put for us the last time we were together, and we're going to use those to run some smaller Pdsas. So that's our plan for the future.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we beat our 5 minutes.
Great job, right at 5 minutes. Okay, and we've got some great compliments and questions in the chat. Thank you so much. How about Steve? Do you want to check us off or share your celebration? And then Javier, and then Jessica's got a great question.
I just like the idea of taking kids to campuses early enough to give them that inspiration. And it reminded me of my second son, who by visiting campuses discovered that he had very good taste in higher education, and he wanted to get into places that were better than his grades allowed. So he really buckled down senior year and got into the college of his choice.
Great, Javier.
Yeah, the idea is so simple to like get kids on college campuses. You know, for so many of our students, they need to picture themselves there. You know, sort of living, breathing it, experience it, being able to imagine it, and the trips definitely help. I remember, you know, kids going on trips and coming back from colleges saying, "Oh, I can picture myself there now." Mm-hmm. And if that's all you're achieving, then that's awesome. You know, I mean, that's a big win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. Jessica, your question. And I think you have to unmute yourself to share it.
I think she might be frozen.
I think she is. How about we'll try to go to Jose. Jose, do you want to share your question?
Yeah, sure. My question was just thinking about, you know, were there any specific aspects of college life that you wanted students to experience during the tours?
Yes and no, depending on the college. Like, for example, we have a close partnership with USC, so that was, you know, the college we're doing in 9th grade, because we feel like that's where a lot of kids need the extra boost in morale. So when we were there, one of the things that I made sure we included in our tour was a tour of their trophy room. So they have Heisman trophies there that the kids can actually touch. And some of our boys that are completely disconnected with school were so excited to see the trophies and the sports program. And so there's different areas that I want them to see. I want them to see themselves, you know, as athletes in the college, as, you know, they have state-of-the-art newsroom. So some of the kids were excited by the journalism aspect. So I think just like the different possibilities, that it's not just academics. College is so much greater. And to be honest with you, the majority of the students, the thing that was the most exciting to them was their food courts, the Starbucks inside of the colleges, and you know, that was okay with us. We just wanted them to be excited and to see that college was about so much more than that. They had so many more choices once they got there. So I think, like some of you said, we just wanted them to see themselves in that environment. And we were very lucky, and we're very lucky that we're in Los Angeles, and that all the universities we chose are very diverse. So they were able to see kids that look just like them, you know, in college, hanging out, enjoying themselves and learning. So I think it's multifaceted, and more than anything, we just want them to learn about the different colleges, and hopefully spark something in them, so they start to look beyond our neighborhood, Cal State.
Great. And there's some wonderful suggestions and ideas in the chat box from both Jose and Gabby. Also, Gabby notes visiting dorms is great too. I noticed that too when I would take kids. When they would see the dorm, it would like Gabby's writing, they saw an increase in the applications to the campuses that they visit. So yeah, just seeing yourself there. Wonderful. Okay, Jessica, I think, is still frozen, so we're going to kind of keep moving on to the next group, but we can connect Jessica and Liliana about kind of the curriculum that you developed around these college trips, because I think that's something that other folks are interested in learning about as well, so that can happen offline too.
Great, thank you.
Great, and lots of great tips from Jose. And I would encourage folks, please capture, there's some really great questions and suggestions. If you could please capture them in that MOEL feedback form. I'm going to post the link to it again. It would be great to have that so that folks can just go to it and see all these suggestions and have it guide their work. All right, thank you. So on to the next group, which is, I believe, High Tech High. And hopefully we can hear Matt.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to try and get Matt back on the phone here.
I love that the organization called High Tech High is the one that actually has to phone in the person who's speaking because we can't get our tech to work. The irony is not lost on us.
See if I can get him. We may have to bump to the next one.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Let's just bump to New Tech, and then we'll get Matt online, and we'll close out with High Tech High.
Listen, our fax line is taking up too much of our connectivity right now, so we'll try the dial up and see if that works.
Fax?
Oh my!
High Tech High, quote unquote.
All right, so New Tech, are you guys ready?
Yes, we are. We could go.
All right, go for it.
Great. So we are sort of presenting our work in 3 different chunks, sort of from what we've done and learned from a network perspective, and then from each of our 2 school perspectives as well. So that's kind of the framework here. So you want to go ahead and move to the next slide. Our team, really quickly, that are on this call are Jose Garcia, Kelly Kamek, and also a new member to our team, Jeff Kroll, who will be joining our work moving forward. And then you can go one more slide. Oh. This is just, if you're unfamiliar with New Tech Network and who we are and where we are, you can kind of use the slide deck to kind of look at the slide and kind of figure that out. Great. So this is actually a driver diagram I wanted to share that we kind of share as a network, and where this particular group comes into play is really around that top driver, which is really our aim, is increasing awareness around of post-secondary options. We have some other improvement cohorts that are sort of doing some other work in the network around preparation and also literacy and other things like that. So it kind of gives you a framework of what our network focus has been coming into this work. So as a network, we took a big step in sort of establishing this team, even a little bit before the invitation to join this NIC, so it kind of gave us some lead time in figuring out our identity, specifically identifying awareness as the key focus area that we wanted to start at. We recruited 2 schools to join us, which Kelly and Jose will talk to you about here in a minute. And identified as a network 2 coaches, Kelly and Jose, to work directly with these schools in support of their learning. We established sort of check-ins that happened a little bit more quarterly with the other improvement cohorts that were in our network. And our focus this year was really about learning about IR and how to support schools to do improvement research. So we're kind of learning about it and also trying to figure out how to support schools to do it simultaneously. So I'll turn it over to Kelly. Oh, sorry, I got one more slide for me. So some things we kind of learned really quickly as a network is sort of, number one is that the IR work really needs to be connected to some type of whole school focus. When it's separate, it's really, really difficult. We were most successful in collecting data through surveys, and we've also learned that having a person who's directly alongside coaching that school leads to the best amount of improvement research. Okay, Kelly, now your turn. I'm
it
sorry, I
really
think it's
me or
Jose.
is it
No,
Jose?
I apologize.
Yeah.
I'm going too
I
fast.
think it's me.
It's Jose. Yeah, sorry, Jose.
Unless you're calling me Callie.
No,
All
go
right.
for it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. I'll take it from here. Kelly and I do look very similar. If you've ever seen us. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about Memorial Early College. So they're basically based in New Braunfels, Texas, between San Antonio and Austin. You go to the next page, and I apologize that I made some edits that they're not showing in this one. But so initially, what their focus was around having students complete a post-secondary plan, and their focus was really around the 12th grade. So they wanted to start with the 12th grade, and what they kind of realized early on, it was focusing on the 12th grade was too late. They actually had to start this process with the 11th graders. So after the January convening, they actually only focused with the 11th grade advisory. And what they actually did is they started to narrow their focus from creating a senior plan for students to help to identifying a smaller group of students to support in getting clearer on what they wanted to do after high school. So for them, their plan was really a folder initially, and they had to also what they also did was they took some steps in getting really clear on their purpose of this post-secondary plan and how it was going to help students get a better understanding of future possibilities. Another step that they kind of took is they actually started to collect some baseline data that really started to kind of allow them to start to create smaller groups of students who had no idea of what they wanted to do after high school, which also allowed them in using their advisory time was to create specific workshops for those advisory students. You could go to the next slide. Yeah, cool. So a couple of things that kind of they learned out of the school. With one, they had some administration had changed, and it was very difficult for them to engage in this work without clear structures to support the work. And having one less person really did not give them time to meet on a regular basis. They also felt teacher voice and ownership was critical. And they also learned that a lack of baseline data made it difficult to measure growth early on, and that it was important to measure that data earlier on. I'm sorry.
Great. How about Kelly? Do you think you can do yours in 2 minutes?
Sure. I have the slideshow up, but if you're rolling through it in a particular way, I can't see it. So I'll just, community school, Spokane, Washington, prioritize college and career readiness in their advisory. So steps they took was they have an advisory class and they prioritize CCR in that. They also have now a direct partnership with the counselor. So they don't have a counselor, so they had one of their teachers be a pretend counselor, particularly around the college and career district supports. They dug into their district and our network data around barriers for college readiness. And then they, as a staff, revisited their mission and goals for post-secondary success. So things they learned, they realized that they really want their graduates to be well-rounded and wanted to focus on more comprehensive post-graduation goals versus just preparing them for college or modeling this sort of value system like college and career readiness. Sorry, I'm in a grocery store, so you'll hear all fun kind of noises. And then they also collected some data through surveys to say that revealed that the #1 concern for students around college readiness was, and actually just post-secondary concerns, was just money. So things that they, oh, that's it. Okay, then the last one I think is that me, Nick? Sorry.
No, that's
or
it. We'll just leave it there as a visual because we took too much time. So those are just things as a network based on our schoolwork that we're going to learn and try.
Okay, fantastic. We have many celebrations and some questions. I'll just start with my celebration. I really love that the use of data kind of helped the team develop more targeted interventions at the Texas school. It's fantastic. And Steve, you had a question, and then Javier had a question.
My question was what made it difficult to document the Pdsa process?
I would say, and Jose and Kelly, feel free to jump in as well, I would say it's hard for us to figure out a strategy as a coaching team, and I think if we had some more time this year, we might launch our own Pdsa around documenting, because I think we're torn between wanting to document everything for them and for our schools, and then also, but yet helping our schools build the capacity to document themselves. And I know that schools themselves were doing documentation, but we didn't create really great structures about how they could communicate that documentation to us as well. So it kind of went around a little bit in both ways.
So it sounds like it's two stages. It's what happens locally and whether you get what they've done locally.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Great. And Javier, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, so I heard you say that you develop post-secondary plans for students. But I'm wondering who gets enrolled in that? Like, who participates in that planning process?
I'm going to toss that one to Kelly or Jose as the folks on the ground.
I'll just speak for Memorial. So for Memorial, it was just something that the counselor actually developed, was a post-secondary plan of resources and elements that she felt was important for students to kind of capture that would help them kind of create a post-secondary plan. So it wasn't, they used resources from College Board and from TU Texas resources as well. So it was just something that the school had created. And then it was for all students actually had to present theirs at the end of their senior year.
And there's a second part to that question. Sorry, Stacy. Do you anticipate having other people participate in that process, and could students benefit from that?
I could see students benefiting from that. It's not necessarily like a network kind of goal. Like every school kind of handles it different. But I could see other schools, participate are using a very similar plan.
And I just want to echo looking back, Kelly, at the school that you're supporting with the #1 being money. We're definitely finding that too, and it's making us wonder, like, what are we doing to support students in applying for scholarships, understanding the FAFSA process and loans and all of that kind of stuff. So again, once again, financial literacy kind of emerging as a theme in a lot of our work.
I just wanted to quickly celebrate the new tech team, our mobile new tech team that is joining us from the grocery store, and it appears to be Nick's car. So nice job, guys.
They're everywhere.
We are at High Tech High as a computers, and we can't seem to pull it together, but I just want to congratulate you guys on that.
We're used to improvising on the road.
Impressive.
Apparently, new tech is more powerful than high tech.
They're mobile, man. They're out
We should have known. We should have known. All right. I think we have Matt ready to go. So, Matt, let's go back to High Tech High slides, and you can share what your team has been doing.
Okay, so I'll go through Daisy's visual since I'm talking remotely. If you look at slide 40, we actually have a pretty big team. We're doing a lot of different things based kind of everybody's piecing it together and coming together at the end. But our main goal has been to looking at the eligible seniors, making sure or having expectations to have all of them apply to and then reach a safety school. So this year we were very successful in having everybody that was able to apply. I think we got to 98%. And a couple ways that we did that in terms of PDSAs was, one, looked at, if you go to 42, looked at getting core teachers involved in the process. So in 11th grade across all teachers, we did a college knowledge project. And that was students creating posters that they then shared across their advisory. And the posters, even to this work, were assigned to the poster style, but they went through different pieces looking at a safety, a reach, and a fit school, and with a safety reach and a good fit school. And with that, they had to look at how the schools fit their goals. So a big part of that was having them interviewed. We scaffolded a process in both advisory and then in the core class as to having them interview teachers at related to the majors and related to the schools that they were applying to. So student perspective, we actually have a video that we'll link to this, but just got finished today. A lot of different student perspectives on how the project helped them. But if you look at slide 45, so with all the things that we tried, the big one in getting it out to teachers in core classes was the PD series in the first half of the year, and then we backed it up with just more things happening over the course of the year. It looked at how teachers can help identify scaffolding the right schools for students, having teachers actually go through application process so that they can help that in the class, and then we did what was called an App Fest and advisories. And what the App Fest did is have each, so about 4 seniors per advisor, spend a day actually going through the application process. And that was when we did surveys for that. That was a huge thing that students responded positively to, that helped everybody apply. And that's one thing that we'll actually add to. So in the coming year, we're going to expand the time that they get with their advisor in that aspect. The second thing is with the 11th grade and that project, the College Knowledge Project, we're going to expand it into including preparation for internships. So all the 11th graders are out in internships now, but having that connection be stronger and possibly working into it's either a Pdsa or another improvement group that deals with internships in college. So the big structures, I think we're looking to expand on all of them, but it was a lot of them implemented through the fall and then beginning of this year, and then into the core classes at the latter part of this year with that project. So also into next year, one thing that we're going to try is shaking up advisory just a bit. So we've been looking at how that might happen through surveys with advisors, but one thing to do that is to have the advisors not the whole time, but split into grade levels so that they'll get time with their peers at each grade level. It was a big thing that surveys showed students wanted, to have at least part of that time that we devote to college devoted with peers at the same level. And then, we're going to develop an advisory portfolio based on that work and align internship. That's what we got.
Okay, great. And could we scroll back to the slide that had the student quotes? Because I think that would be a nice one to have kind of up while we're celebrating asking questions. Great, thank you. So we've got Steve and Scott in the chat box. How about Steve? Do you have a celebration and a question?
Yeah, well, it's an impressive array of activities, and good to know that it's had a positive impact and that you have ideas for continuing the improvement. I was curious about your idea of connecting the internships with college readiness. Could you say more about what you have in mind with that?
So some of the initial data that we got in terms of internships and in terms of the students that weren't connecting to college initially. So prior to this year, we didn't have 80%, and that demographic was we were finding Latino males were like the standout group, different than the others that were not connected. The right way to put it, I think, based on surveys was they didn't see themselves in having professions that needed 4-year degrees. And a lot of those same students, when given an internship survey, tried to gravitate towards internships that didn't necessitate or have a mentor that was a 4-year or have a 4-year degree. So we want to set up and think about how we would facilitate internship applying to a major and to a career that the students have like a very high expectation with, instead of kind of setting a low bar for themselves in terms of like what they aspire to. It's not that those aspirations are bad per se, but they're very linked in seeing a lot of students come through internship and then come through college. how we're going to do that yet.
Great. And Scott, you had a question that was kind of piggybacking off of that around what kind of data could you collect to get at that connection. Do you want to pose that question?
Well, yeah. Well, it sounded like you had a survey for like your pre to kind of. So, are you gonna have just like a pre and a post test survey, or did you have other kinds of data you were thinking about collecting?
Yeah. So we're setting up a survey now that will give us like exact numbers. What we did the previous years was it was actually a lot of this happened with our college counselor, Tricia. She had interviewed a lot of students. Well, every year she interviews students as to what they hope to, where they hope to go, what they hope to do, and those were lining up with us with students that it was sheets that we handed out and then got back, nothing digital. In terms of this college plan or college readiness plan that they made through internship, the hopes and careers that they're writing in those were very, I guess, in parallel paths. So a good example was I had a student that initially, I guess in 9th grade, aspired to be an engineer, and for a lot of different reasons, by the time he got to 11th grade and looking for an internship, he wanted to be a baker. And it's not to say that that wouldn't be a bad career path, but what ended up happening with that student was he was denying a lot of opportunities that might have given him a look at being an engineer, and instead got more of a retail-based internship that, you know, we felt like didn't necessarily get to what he could see in that spot. And it, you know, some of it had to do with how we scaffolded his internship, but the bigger part was he was denying some opportunities because of the perceived levels of what he wanted to do.
Great. And I see that, Javier, you have a question. Nicole also had a quick question. Why don't we take 1 minute to see if we can answer those quickly. Did you want to pose your question, Javier?
I was on mute. Yeah, I know next year you said you wanted to dig further into how internship connects with college readiness. And so I haven't, I'm still kind of formulating my thought. One idea was kind of like the data around, you know, what employers look for, you know, which is like internship experiences after kids, you know, after earning their college degrees. But also I'm wondering if the question should be around also considering, you know, how internships connect to career readiness, not only college readiness.
Right, yeah, that's a great question. And that's in the college knowledge project that they did in the 11th and 12th grade. We tried to make that link how, you know, internships lead to colleges and then careers. You know, whatever, if it's going to be a community college or 4-year. But that's, yeah, having that end goal be a career is definitely, you know, a great point to bring up either way.
Great. And Nicole just had a quick question. Looks like did all 11th graders complete the Common App in preparation for 12th grade?
Yeah, so that was actually a big push that we made. So in bringing it to core classes, like how we set up expectations with teachers, we actually said that I think it ended up being 4 students in the end this year that didn't, and there was good reasons for it to not happen, but the expectation actually came out of their class, like it was a class assignment that they needed to complete, and then got a lot of support to complete. So yeah, they all did, except with these outliers.
Great. All right. Well, thank you, High Tech High. Well done. I wanted to see our beautiful shiny graph that we're so proud of that shows how North County is really gone from being kind of at the bottom in terms of applications to colleges to kind of skyrocketing at 98% right now. So it's really cool to see that, and thank you for sharing your work. All right. So we are we're running a little bit behind, surprise, surprise, but that's okay. So we're actually going to skip the debrief. If anybody has, I know we've only done a couple of these share outs. To me, they always feel a little rushed and like crazy, but I love also hearing from each team. So if you have any feedback about just this as a format, please just shoot me an email and let me know. I've noted like several themes that are emerging kind of across all of our work. Awareness definitely seems to be a driver that a lot of folks are working on. Lots of stuff around internships, about literacy, great questions about like how do we keep track of post-secondary stuff. I know we're working on that too, kind of how are we staying connected with our kids and what are we doing to kind of keep that data together, and curriculum around college trips. So there's lots of opportunities and synergy to be happening at our fall convening, if not before. So I just encourage you guys to reach out. We do have that team contact doc, and I know Emma put her email in the chat box for Jessica for her question related to data. So I just wanted to touch really quickly on some next steps before summer, because I know summer is rapidly approaching, and we will see each other again in September, which we're very excited about, or October, I can't remember what the date is, but in the fall. We'll see each other in the fall. But before that, we would love to have kind of a sense of who is going to be on your team. We know that things are shifting a little bit. Some members are leaving the school, new members are joining. So sometime before the end of the month, please just take a moment and kind of update your team contacts and the bios. And the links are right here in the slide. I'll send all this out afterwards as well. But it'd be great to kind of go into the summer with a clear sense of who is going to be on your team, and there's also a little bit of room for expanding the teams. So feel free to reach out about that as well. We also have Ben here, Ben Sanoff, who has been a graduate student. He just graduated from our GSE, and he is now officially full-time working for High Tech High, supporting our schools, but also supporting the Research Center. We're super excited to have him on board. And he sent you an email recently about some network measures that we're trying to collect. And Ben, do you want to just introduce yourself and say anything about that?
Sure. So I know most people from the convenings, but yeah, I sent out an email just about some network measures, and I think I'll just keep it brief and say, you know, if you have any questions, just let me know. And that, you know, our goal is to really support each of you in gathering this data. And trying to have a deeper understanding of where each school and each sort of site is at in a way that will be beneficial to all of us to identify some bright spots and some opportunities for all of us.
Great, thank you. So yeah, feel free to reach out to Ben. He sent that email to all of you team leads, but also the kind of designated data person for your organization. So hopefully you can be working together to send us that stuff, and we will do our best to compile it in a way that will make sense for all of us at the network. I also wanted to introduce Steve once again. I think most of you know him, and he's joined us for these and for the in-person convenings, but Steve is going to be doing our evaluation of the NIC, which we're really excited about. So he will be reaching out to team leads in particular about interviews. He'd like to spend some time and ask some questions. But we're also going to be sending out a survey either Friday or Monday to the whole NIC. And as part of that, he's also going to be digging through your team folders. And so anything that you can do to kind of tidy up those team folders, like put Pdsas all together, or, you know, do whatever makes sense for your team, but just in a way that will also be helpful to us in getting a sense of where your team is, would be great. And Steve, do you have anything to add to that?
I'd say just that it's important to recognize that this is an evaluation of the NIC and how the NIC works. And so a big part of it is how is it that being part of a network supports your work, and how can that network be strengthened to be a stronger support? Right. Great. It is helpful to us. It is not an evaluation of you, is the main message. All right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for sharing your work and your learning this year, and we're really excited to
to go into the summer and then to see you again in the fall. And if you didn't see that, so that wasn't just a random baby on that last slide. That was my little monkey eating a zucchini from our garden. So officially summer is here because that zucchini was as big as he was.
I took it down so you all had to stare at me instead, since everybody had the slides pulled up. I wanted everybody to leave with this right here.
Great. And Gabby made, yes. So what I will do in the next couple of minutes right here is I'm going to pull stuff from the chat window and I'll paste it into that Google document and I'll share it with all of you just so that you'll have kind of a record of the celebrations and the questions that were posed during the conversation. So I'll do that right now and send it out. So thank you, everybody. It was really fantastic having such a large group for our final one. And have a fabulous, fabulous summer.
Thank you, everybody.